Hello, everyone. Welcome to another day of fun learning. We are the group number 10, and today we are going to discuss Chapter 9 Base Compensation. But before anything else, allow me first to introduce the reporters from group number 10. First, yours truly, Mia Queen Ingasca, and together with me are Mr. James Kenneth Angyot, Mr. Joshua Quijada, Ms. Melva Ributa, and Ms. Rodelyn Rubin. So I know that you are all thrilled to learn something new today. So let's get started. Let's start the first subtopic by understanding what compensation truly entails. Compensation in its broadest sense refers to the total package of pay and benefits that employees receive in exchange for their services. Employees and their employers have an exchange relationship in which employees apply their time and talents to create value for the organization in exchange for the tangible and intangible rewards that employees value. Although money is not the only reason why people work, it is usually one of the main reasons. Compensation is a critical aspect of any organization, encompassing both financial and non-financial elements. So, financial compensation includes both direct and indirect forms. Now, let's proceed first with direct financial compensation. So, direct financial compensation is the most widely known and recognized form of compensation. It consists of the pay an employee receives in the form of wages, salary, bonuses, and commissions. And it is actually the largest element of base compensation. On the other hand, indirect financial compensation consists of all the tangible and financially valued rewards that are not included in direct compensation, including free meals, vacation time, health insurance, and incentive pay. So, this form of compensation is often understood as the portion of an employee's contract that covers items such as temporary leaves of absence, benefits, and retirement plans. Moving forward, we also have non-financial compensation, which includes employee rewards and incentives that are not financial in nature. Examples of non-financial compensation includes flexible work schedules that give employees an alternative to an 8 to 5 work schedule, development opportunities, casual dress codes, and helping employees balance work with the other demands in their lives. Now let's proceed with defining what is base pay. Base pay reflects the size and scope of an employee's responsibilities. It is typically reviewed annually in light of an individual's performance and experience, competitive trends, and the geographic location of the job. It can also be interpreted as a fixed amount paid to an employee for a certain job. Base pay is only one component of an employee's total compensation and does not include overtime pay, bonuses, benefits, or insurance. Let's discuss about severance pay. So severance pay is given to employees upon termination of their employment. The amount of severance pay a departing employee received is typically based on his or her length of eligible employment within the company. So there is no legal requirement to provide severance pay. When it is offered, many employers have the reporting employee sign a release agreeing not to sue the organization in exchange for receiving the severance pay. Now let's talk about total rewards. Total rewards include everything an employee perceives to be of value that results from the employment relationship. It includes financial and non-financial compensation, benefits, the physical work environment, organizational culture, professional development, recognition, and work-life balance. Now, let us proceed to the second subtopic, which is all about strategic compensation. So, strategic compensation at its core is a human resource management technique that helps companies manage the total employee compensation. It ensures growth, equity, and transparency while helping businesses save money, stay competitive, and boost overall performance. So strategic compensation also allows companies to establish reward system that will increase employee retention. For example, you can use it to create merit increase programs for top performers. Strategic compensation system has several goals including the following. First, attract and retain qualified employees. Second, reflect the relative value of each job. Third, be externally competitive and internally consistent and fair. Fourth, motivate individual performance and employees' contribution to organizational goal achievement. Fifth, foster employee engagement and productive work relationships. And lastly, comply with all the state and federal laws and regulations. Now let's proceed with a comparison of fixed pay versus variable pay. Fixed pay pays employees a set of amount regardless of performance. It is the monthly salary companies guarantee their employees in exchange for their services. It includes basic pay and any additional allowances like housing, childcare, or transport. The amount of fixed pay stays the same regardless of hours worked or individual performance. On the other hand, variable pay bases some of all the employees' compensation on employee, team, or organizational performance. It reinforces the competitive advantage of cost efficiency because the pay system helps to control labor costs. It is popularly known as performance linked pay. It is usually paid in the form of incentive pay, bonus, or commission. So let's proceed to the comparison of pay structure versus pay mix. Pay structure is an organization's array of pay rates for different skills or work, including the difference in pay among employees in different job families. It is a system that defines what each individual and job role is paid based upon their value to the business and effectiveness in their role. So pay structures can be designed to price jobs at the prevailing market rate or to preserve internal pay equity by compensating each job consistently with the positions above and below it in the company hierarchy. On the other hand, pay mix is the relative emphasis given to different compensation components. It refers to the ratio of fixed pay to variable pay in an employee's compensation. A pay mix ratio is typically used in sales department to motivate employees to reach or exceed their targets. And because different combinations of compensation components motivate different behaviors and focus employees in different goals, pay mix is an important dimension of compensation strategy. So that ends my report on the first two subtopics of base compensation. I hope you learned something new today and please stay tuned for the next reporters.
Hello everyone. Well, on this part of the report, we will be dealing and talking about what influences direct financial compensation. We can say that direct financial compensation is influenced by many factors. The organization, the job, the specific employee, and external factors can all influence how much pay an individual receives. By understanding these factors, we aim to help organizations make better decisions about how they pay their employees, taking into account both their own goals and what's happening in the broader job market. So let's explore each of these in greater detail. First in the line is the influence of the organization on direct financial compensation. This defines that different industries and different organizations within an industry are able to pay differently based on their profitability and resources. For example, I myself is able to pay my employees more than a typical local banks. So basically, the amount companies pay their employees can vary based on their industry and individual financial strength, as more profitable and resource rich organizations tend to offer higher salaries. Also, one consideration in your own career is what industry you work in as well as what career to pursue. Some industries are able to pay more than others due to greater growth, profitability, and resources, which on this part plays an important role to what industry to are to work with. When planning your career, it's important to think about both the industry you choose and the specific job you want, as certain industries can offer higher pay due to forces like growth, profitability, and available resources. These decisions plays a significant role in determining which industry you choose to work with. It is important to remember that although a financially successful organization may be able to pay above market salaries, it may not choose to do so, as other factors affect compensation decisions for different jobs. We need to also note that in some organizations, it is have compensation policy of being a pay leader and seek give employees greater rewards than do their competitors. These statements suggest that certain companies have a deliberate approach to compensation, aiming to stand out as leaders by offering their employees more generous awards than what others companies in the same industry provide. Essentially, these organizations prioritize being at the forefront of the in terms of pay, attract, and retain top talent, setting themselves apart from their competitors. Furthermore, companies with an innovation or customer service strategy, including Starbucks and Google, uses this strategy to attract and retain higher quality employees who are critical to their success. Although factors other than pay influence motivation and retention, I believe that employees do tend to be more motivated and turnover is often lower when rewards are greater. And now we are in the second influence, and that is the influence of job and direct financial compensation. For both ethical and legal reasons, it is important to have a clear plan to meaningfully distinguish between jobs and employees. For pay purposes, organization should ensure that pay differences across employees are based upon variations in job requirements including skill, effort, working conditions, job responsibility, and mental and physical requirements rather than bias. We can all say that it is notable and where it emphasizes the importance for organization to make sure that differences in employee pay are fair and linked to the specific demands to their jobs. In addition, a job should be established to be worth a certain wage rate to the organization, and a person hired to till it at that rate. Exceptions are sometimes made for high-level jobs for which the incumbent may expand or reduce the scope of the job depending upon his or her ability and interest, or for particularly higher performs at risk of leaving the organization. A note-taking theory on this one is from resource dependence theory. This argues that organizational decisions are influenced by both internal and external agents who control critical resources. The theory highlights that organizations are influenced in their choices by both factors within the organization itself and external factors, particularly those who hold significant resources vital for the organization's functioning and success. According to this theory, an organization must acquire resources, for example, money, technology, accreditation from regulatory agencies to survive, and it interacts with other actors who control such resources. So whoever controls these sources, for the example, like technology or the money and etc., has a considerable influence over the organization because positions that secure valuable resources are more important than those that do not have. Employees holding such position are typically paid more. And now we are down to the third influence, which is the influence of the employee on direct financial compensation. If equity is more important to an organization than equality, then individual difference in ability and contribution should be recognized. Wage differentials are differences in wages between workers, group of workers, or workers within a career held. For example, the highest performing employee in a work group might be paid more than his or her coworkers even though they all hold the same job. This implies that the organization recognizes and rewards individuals' performance, choosing to compensate the most productive employee at a higher level as a form of acknowledging and incentivizing outstanding work within the group. We can also mention here that seniority and merit are two of the largest influences on wage differentials among people holding the same job in an organization. So basically, this means that when people have the same job in a company, two big factors that affect how much they get paid are how they've been working there, or it is the seniority, and how well they perform in their job, or this is the merit. So someone who has been working for a longer time or has shown excellent performance might earn more money compared to those with the same job. Additional worker characteristics commonly considered to justify wage differentials include experience, education, competencies, skills, performance, and tenure with the employer. This matter is saying that there are other qualities or features of workers that are often taken into account to explain why they might earn different amounts of money. These include: first is the experience. It is how much time someone has spent working in a certain field. Second is education, the level of schooling or training a person has received. Third is competencies, the skills and abilities a person has developed. Fourth is the skills. It is the specific things a person can do well. Fifth is performance. It is how well someone does their job. And lastly, tenure with the employer. It is how long a person has been working for a particular company. So, when determining how much someone gets paid, employers often look at those factors along with seniority and merit. To prevent a sense of inequity of the part of the lower paid employees, wage differentials should be identified, explained, and determined. It is also job titles can help to differentiate the reason some workers are more highly paid. For example, physician assistant 1, physician assistant 2, and etc. Wage differentials across individuals sometimes result from in-group bias and demographic similarity to those making pay allocation decisions. Research has found that people tend to give less favorable treatment to those individuals with the similar demographic characteristics. Employees' preferences for compensation characteristics can also influence the compensation policy. And now to our last influence, the influence of external forces on direct financial compensation. The labor markets. The labor market for a position consists of all of the potential employees located within a geographic area from which the organization might be able to hire. For example, if fast food cashiers in an area tend to be paid about $8 per hour, a new fast food restaurant is likely to set its cashier pay at that level. So many organizations try to set compensation at a level consistent with the prevailing rate in the relevant labor market. And now, as mentioned earlier about the compensation policy, here is a concrete example on how managing turnover through compensation policy. In 1 year, Converge is a company that manages accounting, payroll, and benefits for organization is over 40 countries. Had such a high turnover rate that it had to recruit 50,000 new people to maintain a staffing level of 35,000. To reduce attrition, Converge tried some silver bullet approaches, such as across the board pay rises, but this had limited success. Finally, they used a data driven approach to determine the specific human resource practices that would be most likely to enhance retention. Converges learned that employees were more likely to stay with the company if they receive half their annual pay raises every 6 months instead of receiving the entire amount once in a year. This cost almost nothing, but it enhanced retention. In summary, what affects how much people get paid is quite complex in today's workplaces. It's not just about how long someone has been working or how well they do their job. Other things like their experiences, educations, skills, and how long they've been with the company also play a role. To make sure employees are paired fairly and motivated, organizations need to consider all of these factors when deciding a compensation. So, this is James Kenneth Onyet saying thank you for listening and stay tuned for the next topic. Bye!
Good day, everyone. I am Malva Emery Buta, PSOA for a student. I'll be discussing about evaluating the worth of a job. I hope you would gain knowledge in this report. There are a variety of methods used to evaluate jobs for the purpose of determining compensation levels. First is the market pricing. Market pricing a job is the process used to determine the external value of a position. It is a vital step in the salary administration process. The market price of a job is a product of the supply and demand of the skills required in each job on the open market. In summary, market pricing is a strategic approach that aligns an organization's compensation practices with the external job in the market. This is not only helps in attracting and retaining talent, but also contributes to internal fairness and compliance with industry standards. Compensation survey, also known as a salary survey. It collects and analyzes actionable data on wages across an industry or specific role. This data provides key insights into job roles and their salaries, helping employers determine and create their initial compensation strategies, determine if their existing strategies are fair, and recruit competitively. A compensation survey can focus on job titles, geographic regions, organization size, departments, industry, norms, and more, and generally reports on cash compensation. In summary, compensation surveys are essential tools for organizations to stay competitive in the talent market, make informed decisions, and maintain fair and equitable compensation structures. Job benchmarking is the process of creating a point of reference against which a particular job may be compared or assessed. Most human resources departments perform job benchmarking on some level, and this generally precedes the writing of job descriptions. Most of us are familiar with reviewing such job descriptions. They generally describe how the job is done and what its requirements are in terms of education and experience. By performing job benchmarking, organizations can enhance their overall HR processes, improve employee satisfaction, and align their workforce with strategic objectives. Job evaluation is the systematic process of determining the relative value of different jobs in an organization. The goal of a job evaluation is to compare jobs with each other in order to create a pay structure that is fair, equitable, and consistent for everyone. This ensures that everyone is paid their worth and that different jobs have different entry and performance requirements. Job evaluation requires some basic job analysis to provide factual information about the jobs concerned. So there are three job evaluation methods. These are ranking method, job classification method, and point factor method. The ranking method of a job evaluation is one way to tie job positions to a specific pay range. You rank jobs to set them in hierarchy. For example, CEO or business owner at the top, C-suite jobs below them, all the way to delivery drivers or cafeteria waitstaff. The lower you go in the hierarchy, the less skilled and less well-paid the jobs become. Job ranking is less complicated and often used by smaller businesses with fewer job titles. This example puts the jobs in hierarchies based on their value to a company. Each job is ranked factor by factor, such as the role's amount of responsibility. At the top is the individual considered to have the most authority. Further down are jobs with less specialized duties or that are less critical to the company's overall success. Job classification is a qualitative form of non-analytical evaluation that compares jobs to predefined class descriptions for each job level. Considering different categories of tasks and responsibilities, jobs are placed in whichever classification best describes them. This approach is most common in compensation surveys and collective labor or shop agreements. Job classification is particularly useful in larger organizations with diverse job roles. It provides a systematic and transparent way to manage the complexity of different positions within the company, ensuring that each role is appropriately recognized and compensated based on its level of responsibility and requirements. It is important to note that while job classification is a valuable tool, organizations may also use other methods such as job analysis and job evaluation to assess and determine the relative value of different positions within the company. A point factor based job ranking the requirements, responsibilities, and other aspects of a job, not the position holder as a person, are evaluated with a set of standardized and generalized factors. This method is commonly used in compensation and human resources management to assess and rank different jobs within an organization based on various factors. Using a point factor job evaluation system provides a systematic and objective way to assess and compare different roles within an organization, helping to ensure fair and consistent treatment of employees. Compensable factors are the key elements or characteristic of jobs that are used in job evaluation to determine their relative worth within an organization. These factors help establish a systematic and fair method for assessing the value of different jobs, which in turn can be used to establish appropriate compensation levels. The specific compensable factors may vary depending on the job evaluation system used by an organization. A position analysis questionnaire, or PAQ, is a structured instrument used for collecting detailed information about a particular job or position with an organization. It is commonly used in job analysis, a process that involves gathering, documenting, and analyzing information about a job's duties, responsibilities, qualifications, and other relevant factors. The PAQ helps in creating a comprehensive and standardized job description. So that is all my report. I hope you do learn something and I hope you enjoyed listening and learning at the same time. Thank you and let's welcome our next reporter.
Hi everyone, I am Joshua Kiada and I am going to report the job pricing and the communicating compensation. First is the job pricing. It is a generation of salary structures and pay the level of each job based on the evaluation of the data. There are three most common pricing systems that are followed. First is the single rate system, second is the pay grades, and third is the broad banding. Single rate system. It is the system that single market determined rate is paid for the job where all the employees performing the work are paid the same rate. It applies when the job doesn't allow a significant performance difference across the employee. Second is the pay grades. A pay grade is the range of the possible pay for a group of jobs. It is derived from factors including necessary education, tasks performed, and required skills and abilities. New hires typically start at the minimum pay rate and work their way up the pay grade. Here are the two common design structures for pay grade system. First is the vertical pay grade and second is the horizontal pay grade. Next is the broad banding. It is a compensation approach consolidating a range of similar job classification into a single pay band. This encompasses a much broader range of compensation levels than traditional salary structures and result in reducing the number of pay grades. We are now going to tackle the communicating compensation. Communicating compensation does not only eliminate any perception that the organization underpays talent or that the pay structure is otherwise unfair, but also learn members feel valued. A clear, well-thought compensation communication plan ensures that employees are aware of changes, understand how they affect them, and have time to prepare and adjust. Unexpected or unclear changes can otherwise undermine employee retention efforts. And that's all for my report. Thank you and God bless.
Compensation issues. Getting compensation policy right is essential to organizational performance. Organizations strive to balance salary costs with fairness and must try to treat employees as equitably as possible. To minimize compensation-related lawsuits, organizations should establish a procedure for hearing and adjusting wage complaints. Wages should be sufficient to provide a reasonable standard of living and not exploit employees. In addition, wages should be paid promptly and correctly. Organizations must also manage issues related to pay equity, team, executive, and global compensation. Equity. Organizations pay people for what they do their job. Doing this effectively both affects and retains appropriate talent and preserves feelings of fairness among employees who are paid differently. The two most often recited fairness principles underlying compensation are equal pay for equal work, higher pay for more important work. Now, equity is composed of compensation equity, comparable worth, and wage rate compensation, which will be discussed as we go further to the video. Compensation equity. It is evaluated both internally and externally. Internal equity exists when employees perceive their pay to be fair relative to the pay of the other jobs in the organization. Most people would find it inequitable if a lower level job position is paid more than their job. Employee equity refers to the perceived fairness of the relative pay between employees performing similar jobs for the same organization. If a new employee with a less experience and lower skills is paid more than a higher performing experienced employee, then the experienced employee is likely to perceive unfairness. External equity exists when an organization's employees believe that their pay is fair when compared to what other employers pay their employees who perform similar jobs. For example, if a local competitor pays employees 20% more than their employer pays them, they probably don't feel that this is fair. Comparable worth. The idea of comparable worth is that if two jobs have equal difficulty requirements, the pay should be the same, regardless of who fills them. The issue is not whether women and men should be paid the same for doing the same job, but that job is tend to be held by women, for example, housekeeper or secretary. It is tend to be paid less than those that tend to be held by men, which is mechanic or truck driver, even though the job contributes equally to organizational performance. Wage rate compression. Wage rate compression happens when starting salaries for new hires exceed the salaries to be paid to experienced employees. Wage rate compression is an internal equity issue that can create immoral problems and increase turnover of high-skilled and experienced employees as they seek the higher salaries elsewhere. The primary cause of wage rate compression is increasing market for rates for skills that are in short supply. Some ways for organization can address wage compressions are increasing the pay of experienced employees. The organization would like to retain them by giving an equity adjustment. Develop experienced employees for promotion to higher paying position. Introduce pay for performance plans that give high performing employees the opportunity to earn higher pay. Team compensation. Team rewards motivate effective teamwork behaviors. Tying team rewards to team performance motivate team members to pursue team goals rather than individual goals. Interdependent work teams requires organization to shift the emphasis of their compensation and reward programs from individual to team rewards. Any remaining individual rewards should acknowledge employees who are effective team players, which are the people who freely share their expertise, help when needed, and improve their teams. Star system. It is the system that rewards only individual performance undermines team effectiveness. Some individual rewards may be appropriate for rewarding particularly critical individual contributions to the team, but the bulk rewards, typically at least 80%, needs to be made at the team level. The focus of effective team-based reward and recognition system is promoting teamwork and accomplishing the team's goals while meeting individual members' needs. Executive compensation. Executive compensation deserves special attention. Not only are those base salaries of executives are higher than of low-level managers or operative personnel, executives frequently operate under bonus and stock option plans that can dramatically increase their total financial reward. Retaining and rewarding effective leadership is a challenge faced by most organizations. Increasing market competition for top executive is increasing the pressure on the companies to retain their top leadership talent. Global compensation. Organizations must pay the employees in multiple parts if the compensation becomes even more complex. Not only do laws offer in different countries, tax policies, inflation rates, currency exchange rates, and other cost of living must also be addressed. To manage these issues, organizations often turn to these policies. Cost of living. Adjustments pay increases to account for a higher cost of living in one country versus another. Housing allowance payments to subsidize or cover housing and related costs, including utilities, etc., in high cost areas. Hardship premiums, where increase an area with a lower quality of life, less safety, etc., often necessary for employees assigned to third world countries. Tax equalization payments. Increase salary to make up for higher taxes that reduce take-home pay and decrease employees' purchasing power. Some countries have no income tax, whereas other countries have income tax rates exceeding 50%, and some U.S. states have no income tax, whereas others have income tax rate that can exceed 10%. And lastly, inflation adjustments. Larger and or more frequent ways to maintain employees' purchasing power in the face of inflation. Compensation laws and regulations. Compensation laws and regulations. Numerous federal and state laws and regulations influence compensation. The three most important federal laws affecting compensation are the Fair Labor Standard Act, the Equal Pay Act, and the Workers' Compensation. The Fair Labor Standard Act. The Fair Labor Standard Act, or FLSA, was passed in 1938 to stimulate economic recovery from the Great Depression. The FLSA is a federal law that sets standards for minimum wage, overtime pay, and equal pay, added under the 1963 Equal Pay Act for men and women performing the same job. Let's talk about overtime pay. Exempt employees are employees who meet one of the FLSA exemption tests, are paid a fixed salary, and are not entitled to overtime. Non-exempt employees not exempt from coverage are employees who do not meet any one of the FLSA exemption tests and are paid on an hourly basis and covered by a wage and hourly laws regarding minimum wage, overtime pay, and hours worked. Limited exceptions apply to doctors, lawyers, teachers, and outside sales employees. An employee who meets the salary and job duties criteria may be exempt from FLSA minimum wage and overtime pay requirements under the various exemptions. These exemptions include the executives, administrators, and creative professionals. Minimum wage. A primary goal of FLSA was to ensure a maximum number of jobs paying at least a minimum livable wage. When violations of wage and hour laws are found, Department of Labor investigators may recommend changes in employment practices to establish compliance. Employers who willfully or repeatedly violates the minimum wage or overtime pay requirements are subjected to a civil money penalty for each violation. The Equal Pay Act. The basic provisions of the Equal Pay Act are prohibitions against gender-based wage discrimination. Employees in the same company who are performing work which requires equal skills, effort, and responsibility and performing under similar working condition must not be paid differently based on gender. Pay differentials are permissible if based on factors other than gender such as seniority, education, and experience, and may also be paid for shift work, dissimilar working condition, and additional job duties or for additional skills. Now let's talk about the last federal law, which is the workers' compensation. Workers' compensation is a type of insurance that replaces wages and medical benefits for employees injured on the job in exchange for relinquishing the employee's right to sue the employer for negligence. Workers' compensation is administered on a state-by-state basis and overseen by a state governing board. Many states have established public uninsured employer funds to pay benefits to workers as employees illegally fail to purchase insurance. And that ends my report. Thank you so much for listening. This is Rodlyn Rubin, the reporter for compensation issues and compensation laws and regulations. Have a great day.